Ubashana hashvi'it shalach Yehoyada yikach et sari hameot v'kari v'laratzin v'aveotam elav beit Hashem v'chorot lehem brit v'ashpaotam b'beit Hashem v'yarotam et pen hamelech. So it was in the 7th year after they hid Yoash in the attic of the Kadosh Kodashim, in order that Atalia shouldn't kill him with the rest of the Bnei Beit David Melech. So then comes Yehoyada Cohen, amazing tzaddik, the great tzaddik here that guides the whole Am. So he goes and he goes and rounds up Am Yisrael, basically all the leaders and the Am. It's more here than it's split in Yamim. It's more, and the Kariv or Atzim, the different Pshushim. That means the leaders, basically, leaders and the ones that the messengers. I'm not sure. Different types of leaders. We have Otam Elo Beis Hashem, and he makes a brit. He makes a pact with them, and he makes a oath with them, and he shows them the king. He says, "We're now going to be mamlich, the real king, which is Yoash, and we're going to also fix up the situation in Am Yisrael. Things are going to come back to where they're supposed to be." And the people go with him, leaders go with him against Atalia. Yitzavim lemor. He commands them, saying, "Zed avasher tasun hashlishit mikem boy hashabat v'shomrei mishmeret beit hamelech v'shlishit b'shar sur v'shlishit b'shar achar haratzin v'shmartem et mishmeret habayit masach v'shtei hayadot v'chem kol yotzei Shabbat v'shamru et mishmeret beit Hashem el hamelech v'kavtem al hamelech saviv ish v'chelav b'yado v'aba el sderot yumat v'yu et hamelech petzeto uvavolo." So it describes a little bit. It's not too clear exactly what the system was made here. It's complicated a little bit, not clear at all. But basically, what he did is every week that a new Mishmar Kohanim would come in to serve in the Beis Hamikdash, and when they would finish their week, then they would go out and another one would come in. And he's telling the ones coming in, the ones going out, that we're now going to make a temporary system of preserving the king. We're going to all get involved in this. We're going to watch this gate. We're going to watch the king and surround him wherever he goes, so that Atalia won't be able to get to him. And we're going to bring him out, and we're going to make him into the king. We're going to mamlech him as king. He was anyway the Melech ben Melech. He didn't really need a coronation, but they gave him one anyway just to make it clear that it was him and not Atalia.
When they say the king's palace, Beit HaMelech, are they talking about his room in the Beit HaMikdash?
I don't know. That's a good question. Where it says Beit HaMelech, doesn't it? Yeah.
Maybe the palace Shlomo builds?
Maybe. I don't. It doesn't come up that they go anywhere. Everything used to happen in the Beis Hamikdash. So I'm not sure. I don't know. Okay, let's go further. So, the pasuk test. Yasu sari hameot kechol asher tzivah Yehoyada hakohen yikhu ish et hanashav v'ay Shabbat im yotzei Shabbat v'yavo Yehoyada hakohen. So they did everything he said. The ones coming in for the Mishmar, the ones going out, they all were arranged so that they would be watching the king and all the entrances, etc. V'yitenu kohen l'sari hameot et chanit bet shalitim asher l'melech David asher bebeit Hashem. David Melech had put aside gold and metal to create spears and shields. And Shlomo made them. Some of them were later replaced, but these were brought out now for all the people protecting the king. V'yamdu aratzim ish v'chelav biyado miketef habayit hayamanit ad ketef habayit hasmolit l'mizbeach v'labayit al hamelech saviv. They were all around him, surrounding every avenue. No one could get in. Yotzi et ben hamelech v'yiten olav et hanezer v'et ha'edut yamlichu oto v'yimshachuhu v'yakuchaf v'yomru yichi hamelech. So they brought him out, the king, and they put the crown on him, and also the aid of the testimony So that seems to mean the Sefer Torah, because the king had to carry Sefer Torah, just to give him a Sefer Torah. Even though the Malbim says that he has to write it himself. This was written before, so he's going to have to write another one. But meanwhile, he has this one. Or he has to have,
right?
what?
It's pretty young.
He's still young. Yeah. He's only 7.
Yeah.
Right, 7 years old. So he couldn't fulfill the mitzvah yet. So, but they gave him the Sefer Torah, and when he's 13, he'll do the mitzvah, have it written for him, or he'll write it. And they anointed him, and they clapped, and they said Yechia Melech. So they made him into the king. Tishma Atalia et kol haratzin ha'am v'tavo el ha'am beit Hashem. So Atalia heard all the goings on. The people were gathering from all over Eretz Yisrael, coming for the event, and it was big. And so she noticed. V'tera, and she didn't know that Yoash was alive, so she thought she was running the whole show. So she steps right into a trap. V'tera b'nei melech omed al amud kamishpat v'sarim v'chatzotrot el melech v'kol ha'aretz sameach v'tokeya b'chatzotrot v'tikra Atalia et begadeha v'tikra kasher kasher. So she sees that the king is standing in a special spot where the king would stand, and the ministers were there with the trumpets, and all the people were there, sameach, rejoicing, and they were blowing the chatzotrot, the trumpets, and so she knew she was finished. She tore her beged like someone whose day is up. Yeah. She said they've ganged up, they made a plot. Yitzav Yoyada Kohen et Sari Meot, Pekudei Achayel V'yomer Aleihim, Hotziu Ota El Mebeit L'Steirot, Rabba Achareha Hamet, V'charev. Ki Amar Kohen Al Tamut Beit Hashem. So then Yehoyada Kohen commands the ministers, take her out from the Beis HaMikdash and where we are, and kill her outside the Beis HaMikdash with a sword. Because he didn't want her to die in the Beis HaMikdash. Why didn't you want her to die in the Beis HaMikdash? So it's not. You would think it's not appropriate to kill someone in the Beis HaMikdash. Also, he says, the Rabbi says, he didn't want to have that kind of a glorious death. He wanted her to die in the place where she deserved to die, outside the Beis HaMikdash.
The Kohanim can't become tummy, right? It would be an oil too.
That's interesting. Oh, that's a good point. Oh, I didn't think of that. That's good work. Yeah. Yasimu la yadayim, v'tavo derech mavo asusim, Beit HaMelech v'tumat sham. So they brought her out, and she died in the place where the horses would come in. They killed her over there. Yichrot Yehoyada et Brit bein Hashem ubein HaMelech ubein Ha'am Yot la'am la'Hashem ubein HaMelech ubein Ha'am. So Yehoyada set up this pact that there's going to be a commitment between the people and the king and the Shem, and now everything's going to get back on track. V'yavo kol ha'aretz beit haba v'yetzuhu et mizbechotav v'etzlamav shibru heitev v'matan kohen habal hargu lifnei hamizbechot yosem kohen pukudot al beit Hashem. So basically they went and they destroyed the Beit Habal that was still there in Yehuda, and the mizbechot and statues and all that, and they killed the Kohen there. And they reinstituted the system of the Kohanim running the Beis HaMikdash kamo shetzarich. So everything was in disrepair. Everything was in bad shape. Yikach et sari hameot v'kari v'teratzim, and then they took the sari hameot v'kari v'teratzim. They call am haaretz V'yaridu et hamelech mebeit Hashem yavo derech shar haratzim beit hamelech ve'eshev al kisei hamelachim. Oh, so then they took the king to the Beit HaMelech. So that's the Beit HaMelech. There's the Beit HaMelech. What you meant? Oh, so after the coronation, they took him to the Beit HaMelech. Yeah, that's the royal house. Yeah.
I was thinking probably the earlier ones when it's talking about them watching, like some are at the temple and some are at the Beit HaMelech. Maybe the ones at the Beit HaMelech are watching over at Italia. That makes sense. Okay, good. That's a good shot. Yofi. Yismael kol am haaretz va'ir shakata v'tatalyahu hemitu v'cherev Beit Melech, and all the land was rejoicing,
and the land was quiet, the city was tranquil, and they killed Atalyahu with the sword of the Beit HaMelech. The Malbim says they'd already almost killed her, and now they took the sword from the Beit HaMelech and they killed her all the way. And you're supposed to kill people that are marred by Malchus with a sword. That's the halacha. So they did that. Okay, that's that story. Pretty dramatic. Amazing. So this is a great leader, Yehoyada Cohen. Super great leader. Okay, it goes further. Ben Sheva Shanim Yehoyash B'Malko. So he was 7 years when he started to rule, Yoash. Bishnat Sheva Liyehu, Malach Yehoash, Varba'im Shana Malach B'Shalayim. V'Shem Imo Tzivya Miber Shava. So in this 7th year of Yehu, that's when Yoash started to rule. Yehu was in Yisrael, and this was in Yehuda. And the name of his mother was Tzivya Miber Shava. She was a tzedekis. She was a great tzedekis. That's what he says, the Ram Nabali. Shemum was in her name. V'yas Yehoash Hayashar b'nei Hashem. Kol Yamav Asher Harahu Yehoyada HaKohen. So Yoash did the right thing all of his life, as long as Yehoyada was guiding him. Yehoyada was like his parent. He brought him up. His parents were killed. Yoash was like his parent, physically and spiritually. Took care of him all the way. So all the time that Yehoyada Cohen was alive, everything was good. Yoash was going the right way. Afterwards, things changed. But the Bamot were not removed. And the people were still sacrificing in the Bamot. Now, the Bamot were these personal Bamot. This was a losase. They were serving Hashem. They were thinking about a Zorah, but you're not allowed. Once it's a base of Mikdash, you're not allowed, and you couldn't get the people away from this. It was a very intimate experience for them to have their personal Bama in their family events. And they would have the barbecues over there, the Shem Shemayim, and it was like a great thing. So they weren't able to stop that. Now, he could have, but he didn't. Probably could have, but he didn't. Why not? That's the question. He was a tzaddik. He seemed to be a tzaddik Yoash. He was a tzaddik. It didn't stop them sacrificing on the Bama. Okay. So here, Ramad Vali says something very interesting. I want to talk to us a little bit. So he says the reason he didn't do that is because, and we had this before also, he was concerned that if they would, this was their devekut, they were double to Hashem in this way, even though it was not the right way. It was the way they had been doing for generations. And so it was a way of being still close to Hashem, even if it was not exactly the right way. It's like people get kind of minhagim, maybe they're not right, but that's what they've been doing for generations, and it's hard to break that up. So he'd rather have them do that than go over to Yisrael and start serving the golden calves over there. Because it seems like they didn't get it yet, the 100% amunah of serving, in the visible Hashem in the Beis HaMikdash. They were happy with their family events, and they could have been seduced into doing these rituals and involve the egel. The level was not perfected yet. That's what it seems like. Okay, so that explains why he did this. Okay, what did he do instead? So he was a very interesting person, Yoash. Instead of taking it away from what they were doing, which was still connecting them to Hashem, even if it wasn't exactly the way they were supposed to be doing it, he did something else to elevate the Am. He did something positive. Like sometimes, instead of removing people something which is not right, and they're not ready to listen to you, so you strengthen them by bringing them to do something good, and you strengthen their ability to be sur meirah, go away from evil, by increasing the good. So that's what he did next. We're going to hear about that now. He built up the tzedakah in the Beis HaMikdash. He built up the whole idea of building the Beis HaMikdash bigger, stronger, fixing everything that was fixed, and everybody giving tzedakah for this. He made a very big tzedakah campaign. And so he wanted to build them up rather than to force on them, like fiat adat, take them away from their bamot. So that was his cheshbon. So let's see first. I want to talk about this a little more. It's a really interesting concept in Judaism. So let's see the psukim first. What he did. Bekitzer. Yomi Yehoash Elakonim. Call Kesef Kadashim Asher Yuva Beit Hashem. Kesef over Ish Kesef Navshot Erko. Call Kesef Asher Yaleh Alev Ish Lahavi Beit Hashem. So Yoash said to the Kohanim, all the kesef that they bring to the base of Mikdash. There's different kinds of kesef. There's chatzi shekel that they gave every year for the base of Mikdash. There's also something called erchin, which person would estimate like himself, his own worth as a servant or someone else's, or an animal's. And that was the way of giving tzedakah. How much would that animal be worth in the marketplace? How much was the person worth as a servant? And then that amount of money they would give to the Beis Hamikdash. That's called erchin, a type of tzedakah. So although that's the second erko. The third thing is the general nedavos, general contributions. All those ones. So Yehoash started to talk to the Kohanim about how this should be collected. Yikhu lahem, he said to the Kohen, Yikhu lahem, HaKohanim, ish me'et makaro, ve'im yichasku et berek habayit, v'kol asher yimatzeh sham barek. So he said, every Kohen, excuse me, should be collecting this money from the ones they recognize. These are all different kinds of donations, and they should use it to fix up the base of Mikdash. Berek habayit, that means fixing the base of Mikdash. Make sure that it's all now improved and in perfect shape. It's a lofty tzedakah, the base of Mikdash. Fi b'shnat 23 shana lemelech Yoash lo chizku hakohanim et berek habayit. They didn't do it. They dragged their feet. Why not? I don't know. It was just like they were busy. It seems like he wanted them to do something like put new energies, divert energies where they were already busy guys. That's what I think. I don't know. Yikra melech Yoash Yehoyada HaKohen. So the king Yoash called to Yad HaKohen, the Kohanim, Yermalehem, Madua enchem mechazkim et berek habayit, v'ta al tiku kesef meyed mekarechem, ki leberek habayit titnuhu. So Yoash said to Yehoyada and to the Kohanim, why aren't you collecting for berek habayit, for fixing the base of Mikdash? So from now on, stop collecting kesef from the people that are coming to give the kesef. You won't be collecting it anymore. Because it should go for the berek habayit. V'yotu kohanim lebilti kachat kesef meita'am lebilti chazek et berek habayit. So Kohanim said, okay, we won't take the kesef from them, but they also didn't do the other part. The berek habayit was still neglected. So now the kesef wasn't going anywhere. Kach Yoyada Kohen Aharon echad yikov chor b'dalto yitein oto etzel hamizbeach. Yamin, miyamin, bevo ish, Beit Hashem. We're not doing Shabbat Kohanim, Shomrei Hasaf, and Kol Kesef Muvah Beit Hashem. So what happens? So Yoyada Kohen has an idea. He gets a big closet, a big box, and he puts a hole in it, and he says, from now on, instead of giving to the Kohanim, they're going to distribute the Kesef. We're going to go straight to this box. So now it's going to be Malchut. It's going to go through the king directly, instead through the Kohanim. Ikarotam kira v'kesef baron v'yal sofer melech v'kohen agadol v'yatzu v'yimnu at the kesef v'nimsa beis Hashem. And when they saw that the boxes were filled, the box of the Aharon was filled, then would come the sofer melech, who writes with his right hand. The right means chesed. This is what Rabbi Bali says, and also the kohen gadol, isha chesed v'isha chachma, and they would gather up the kesef and count it, kesef that was brought in. Because they were doing symbolic things. They were doing this elevating mitzvah of bringing in chesed, the chesed of the am, to elevate the matzah, the situation. Not new at the kesef hamatukan ayidei osya malacha hamufkadim beit Hashem yotziu lecharishei ha'etz labonim osim beit Hashem. So they took the kesef that was gathered up, and they gave it to the carpenters and the builders, the ones who are going to build the base of Mikdash. Lagodrim lechotzvei even leknot eitzim va'avnei matzav matzev lechazek Bedek Beit Hashem L'Kol Asher Yetze Al Bayit L'Chazka. So for all the needs and all the workers, they took money. They took this kesef in order to build the Beis Hamikdash. Achlo Yaseh Beit Hashem Sipot Kesef Mizamrot Mizrakot Patzotrot Kol Klei Zahav Klei Kesef Mina Kesef Muva Beit Hashem. They didn't do it from the side things, only from the Beis Hamikdash. Ki lo sei malacha yitnuhu v'chizku bo et Beit Hashem. So very focused, building up the Beis Hamikdash, not diverted to other things. V'lo yachshavu et anashim asher yitnu et kesef oidam leteit la'osei malacha ki be'emunah hemosim. They didn't count it. They didn't. It says they didn't make an accounting. Basically, who gave how much? It was all done like freely. Kesef Hasham, Kesef Chatos, Lo Yuva Beit Hashem, according to you. The Kesef Hasham, the regular Korbanos, that was not part of this cheshbon. Okay. 1 second. Okay, stop there. Okay, so I want to tell you something about this. My understanding of why this was Yoash's idea about how to build up Am Yisrael. Was they gone to a low level? They were serving the ball. Now this was being fixed up partly by Yehu, and right now he was going to bring it to the next level. And so what happens? He didn't take them away from their private bamas, which was usher, because they weren't ready to hear that. Instead, he made this big, massive tzedakah campaign. So I want to tell you some divrei chasidus over here. One is the Shem Shmuel. Shem Shmuel says like this: on Shabbat, you have two aspects to Shabbat. You have Shamor v'Zachor. Shamor means it's the negative aspect of Shabbat, going away from Malacha, going away from this world, your involvement and your imagination being caught up in this world. So on Shabbos we don't do Malacha, and we move away from being caught in illusions of the world. So that's Shamor. And then the other thing is Zachor. After you do that, then you can throw yourself into this world of dveikut, of connecting to Hashem with positive mitzvahs, the positive acts of Shabbat. Yeah. So he says like this, Shem Shmuel, that at nighttime, that's the time of Shamor. At nighttime, that's when you take on yourself to forget about everything. You have to consider, as soon as it comes in Shabbat, you have to imagine there's nothing else for you in the world. You're not in the middle of any work, there's no projects you're involved in, there's no ambitions, there's nothing like hanging over you to be dealt with. It's finished. Shabbos is like Olam Haba. So you have to forget about all your involvements on Shabbat. That's Shamor Yom Shabbos Kacho. That's Shmir Shabbat. Letting go of the world, not doing Malacha. And not doing Malacha means forgetting about Olam Hazeh. Now we're in the world of Shvita, of Dveikut. We're moving into that world. It's 2 steps. First, you have to get rid of the outside distractions. First, take your mind away from all the things that they're caught up in. And that's the first step. Then after that, in the morning, you go to sleep. You get up in the morning, and then you're holding by Zechor Yom Shabbat L'Kadsho. You're in a different level. You're ready to invest yourself in a different world of Shabbat, which is very far away from the world of the 6 days. So it's 2 steps. Moving away from your attachments and this worldly imagination into a world of Shabbat, of Achdut, of Sudas Hashem Shemayim, of Tfilot, of Limud, of a different world. Okay. So that's all very good, but then he has the Shem Shmuel in Kasha. He says, how come, if that's so, first is Shmira, moving away from Malacha and your attachments, and Zachor is in the daytime, moving into the Shabbat. So how come you start with Kiddush? Kiddush is a kiyum of the mitzvah Zachor at Yom Shabbos Kadsho. So that's the positive. It's a positive mitzvah. It's remembering Shabbos. That's supposed to come afterwards. That's the Shem Shmuel's kasha. You don't hear the kasha?
I mean, don't we say Zachor at Yom Shabbat Kadsho during the morning Kiddush, and we don't? Right, we say that during the morning.
No, V'shamru b'nei Yisrael Shabbos. Shamru. The sort is Shabbos Shabbos Gor Shamru. Oh, it's of course Yom Kadsho. Okay, that's true, but that started from before, and now it's. Oh no, that's in the morning. Zachor is in the morning. Oh no, that's good. In the morning is time of Zachor. but that's Kiddush Shel Yom, that's D'Rabbanan. But in the night is the time of Shamor, and yet the Kiddush D'Oraita is at night, at the beginning of everything, and that's the Kiyum of Zachor Yom Shabbos Kacho. That's part of that mitzvah, Zachor. But according to the whole Cheshbon Shem Shmuel, which is Al-Pi the sources, night is not the time for Zachor. It's time for moving away from the world. And Zachor is in the morning. There's two mikvahs, according to the Rizal. That's what I heard. That before Shabbat there's a mitzvah to go to the mikvah. That's moving away from the world. And there's another one in the morning. Some people do it in the morning. And the Rizal says that's when you're taking on the neshama yetera of the Yom. So you're moving into Shabbat with that second tefillah. Moving away from the world with the first one, moving into the second one. So that's the two levels. But the question is, why does it start out with Zachor Yom Shabbos and Kacho? The mitzvah of Zachor, specifically how we fulfill it besides keeping Shabbat, is Kiddush. Why does it start today? It's a contradiction. So he says like this, because in order to move away from the Ra, move away from your habits, move away from this world, you first have to do a mitzvah. You have to throw yourself ahead of time into the Zachor. Even though you're not really holding there yet, you didn't go through the whole process, you start with the mitzvah, the positive thing. And then that gives you the koch to move away from the negative. And then you go back to the positive. So, right, you follow? It's similar to the idea that, let me tell you another word. So the positive mitzvahs, even when it really, what it means to say is, ideally, before you do a mitzvah, you should make yourself as ready as possible. You have to move away from this worldly involvements, move away from all sins, and purify yourself, and remove yourself, and do a mitzvah. But you can't do that. It's too hard. We don't have the koch to do that on our own. We need Hashem help for that also. Therefore, you could start with the mitzvah right away, even before you're ready. And the mitzvah itself helps you to do the work of removing yourself from negative influences. And then you get back to a deeper mitzvah. So there's really three steps. That's what Hashem Shmuel explains. I think it's Reb Tzadok. I forget if it's Reb Tzadok or it's his Rebbe Meshalach. One of them says a similar word. He says like this. It says that in Tehillim it says, Sur me'ra v'sei tov. First go away from the bad and then do good. So that's the right order. That you can't just be doing whatever you feel like and then think you're ready for a mitzvah. You have to prepare yourself. You have to be mekadosh yourself in order to be able to serve Hashem. So first thing is Sur me'ra. First do tshuva, move away from bad attitudes and actions, and then you'll be able to be ready to do a mitzvah. That's the correct way. But in the Seres Adibris, in the Ten Commandments, it says the other way. First it says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, and it says, Lo yeh lecha Elohim acharim. So it starts with a positive. Have emunah and go away from false emunah. So yes, it's contradiction. So he answers like the same way as the Shem Shmuel, that we do both. Ideally, to do a mitzvah fully, you have to move away from evil first. But you can't. So therefore, you have to throw yourself into the positive right away. And that's part of the process of being Sur Me'ra. Although he says later, he says also, Tzadok, he says, but you can't keep holding on to both things. Even though you start with the mitzvah while you're still doing, you're still doing Averis, you have to let go of them. He gives Esav as an example of someone who didn't do that. Esav, he saw that the parents sent away Yaakov not to marry the Benot Kananim. They didn't want Yaakov to marry the Benot Kananim. That's what Rivka said. And so he sent Yaakov away. Esav was already married to Benot Kananim. So he said, oh, I see, that's what they want. So he married other women also, but he kept his first wives too. See, that you don't do. Maybe you can marry other women first, but then you have to get rid of your other wives. That's the right order, right? So that's the board here. The board is that you shouldn't wait to serve Hashem with mitzvah, to positive mitzvahs, before you made yourself totally tahar and did a full tshuva, because then you won't have the koch to do it. You won't have the ability to move away from Ra. So throw yourself into mitzvahs even when you're holding by very little. But then the goal is to move away from everything that's getting your way, everything that's not Hashem's Ratzon, and then you'll have a full, complete mitzvah. They say what the minhag is in Machon Meir. I have a story about this. That this is what the Rabbi Gun guides us to. I think is that if a guy, sometimes people come in there about tshuvas, like tshuva, they come from the world. They don't know about Torah mitzvah so much. They haven't taken on themselves. They come without a yarmulke. They come without a kippah. So what should the staff do when a guy comes without a kippah? Should I ask him to put on the kippah or not? Answer is no way. Don't touch him. Don't bother him. Fine, let him learn it without a kippah. And I saw one of the a very famous person. His name is Geva Rat. He learned here. Now he's very influential person. He has a whole organization. He's really famous. So he describes the story in Machon Meir. It's a really good story. He describes how he threw himself into it. He was learning the whole time. He was going to all the shirim. He describes all that, and he was getting more and more into it. He describes that, and then he says, after 4 months, I finally put on a kippah. So it's the same idea. Like, you don't have to get rid of all your bad habits before you start serving Hashem, because then you'll never serve Hashem. Start serving Hashem right away, and with the intention of using the energy you get from that to remove yourself from anything negative, and then you'll be able to throw yourself all the way in. So that was Yehosh's plan here. He said, they're mizabchim ala bamot. They're still serving Hashem with the bamot. That's not allowed. We have a basic mikdash, but they're very attached to that. It's like telling them, I have to put on yarmulke. I'm not going to tell them what to do. Instead, I'm going to bring them into something very beautiful. The biggest mitzvah in the world is tzedakah. One of the greatest mitzvahs is tzedakah. And mitok, the hitchatzchut, the aliyah they're going to get from the tzedakah, they'll be able to move away from the bamot also. And I want to say something about that also. Since I'm in a role with Hasidus here, I want to just tell you something else about this, about tzedakah. That tzedakah, the Baal Tanya points out that tzedakah in Yerushalmi, when the Yerushalmi talks about tzedakah, he calls it mitzvah. In other words, when the Yerushalmi says mitzvah, it means tzedakah. So the question is, why does it call tzedakah mitzvah? That seems to say that tzedakah is the ultimate mitzvah. So why does Yerushalmi say that? So Baal Tanya explains it, Lefi Darko in Sefer Tanya. He says the person has two souls. He has a nefesh elokit and a nefesh bahamit, right? We have the animal soul and the divine soul. The divine soul is pulling us to serve Hashem, to learn Torah, to get wisdom, to do chesed, to pray to Hashem, to dvek it. That's what the divine soul wants, and we have that in us. Purity of heart and motivation. We also have in us an animal soul, which pushes us to take for ourselves as much as we can to build up ourselves up, like animals and all other creatures. That we do whatever we can to succeed and to build ourselves up. And so the two souls go in against each other. They're many times in contradiction. And so that's what the Torah guides us, and that's what Hashem is about, is empowering the divine soul over the animal soul. So the animal soul will actually work with the divine goals. So that's what Avodas Hashem is about. So he says tzedakah is the biggest of all things in making that happen. The tzedakah is the reason why the Yerushalmi calls it mitzvah, is because it's one of the main ways you subdue the nefesh habahamit, the animal soul. Why? Because with money you can do anything. The animal soul loves money. If I have money, I now have all these choices of things I can do for myself. If I have more money, I have more choices. That's why you see billionaires, they're never satisfied with $1 billion. They want $2 billion. Because the more money you have, the more options you have. I can buy a city. I can buy an island. That's why they all buy islands, right? All these guys. I can do all kinds of things. I can become the president, If I have enough money, I can do anything. And so the animal soul loves that. Animal soul has gaiva and taiva and everything else in it. And so money is like really, really big thing for this animal soul. So if you take the money and give it to tzedakah, it's like it's a great act of subduing the animal soul and putting it under the jurisdiction of the nefesh elokit, of the divine soul. So that was Yoash understood all this, and that's what he did. He said, okay, we're going to lift up the people with the great tzedakah, doing this mikdash. Okay, good. Okay, let's go further. I want to do a lot more. I don't know how much time we have, not so much. There's another sugya, at least over here. Let's go further. Okay, pasuk Yud Chet. Az Yalech Hazael. Oh, now something amazing happens now. Az Yalech Hazael Melech Aram. At this point, after Klal Yisrael is doing tshuva and is coming to very high levels, way above where they were before, all of a sudden comes the Melech of Aram, Hazael, and starts fighting on Gat, a major city in Israel, V'yochadah, and they captured Gat. V'yasem Chazael panav lalot Yerushalayim. And Chazael decided to come and conquer Yerushalayim as well. V'kach Yehoash Melech Yehuda et kol kadashim yishraktishu. So then what did Yehoash do? He took all the kadashim, the things that people had set aside for the base of Mikdash, all the donations. Asher Kedisha Hoshaphat, the one that Yehoshaphat had put aside in the treasury there. Vihoram, also Yoram, V'chazyahu. All this collected wealth of kings in the base of Mikdash, V'chazyahu Avotav, Malchi Yehuda, Vet Kadashav, Vet Kol Zahav and Imsa Ba'otrot Beit Hashem, U'Beit HaMelech, V'Yishlach L'Chazael Melech Aram V'Yalmei Al Yerushalayim. So he sent it as a bribe to prevent Chazael from conquering Yerushalayim, and he went off from Yerushalayim. So what happened here? So how come now there was such a big nefilah to Am Yisrael and to Yoash after they had done such great mitzvahs and had risen up to such a high level? So the answer is in Divrei Yomi. Because Divrei Yomi complements Sefer Melachim, and it fills in parts which are not filled in here. So what happened in Divrei Yomi is on Tali B'Kitzer. We have to learn it more carefully inside. But it says that the people came and let me just see the Malvim says the language. Yeah, okay, so I can't find where the pasuk is quoted, but what happened was like this. They came, all the ministers came, and it says they started serving Yehoash. And they said, we're going to serve you. And I forget the exact language. It's something like that. And so what happens then is everything starts to be mitkalkel. Now, there's two pshatim. I got to find the language of the pasuk. That's the puzzle. After Wait, does it say that Yehoyada passed away? So, but anyway, that's what it says over there, and we're going to see in a minute. Yehoyada passed away. So, Yehoyada Cohen passed away, and Yoash started to lose his guidance. It turns out that Yehoyada Cohen was the one guiding him all the time, and the Kohanim were guiding him all the time. And then came the ministers, and let me just read you that again. They bowed down to the king. And then they listened to them. It doesn't say exactly what it means he listened to them. Okay, so I want to tell you two pshatim that what's his name from Eli? Rav Kashtiel speaks out. Yeah, two possible mahalchim over here. What happened, and which is brought down Yoash, Yoash and Tefillah. He says the first pshat is like this. Really, people running the base. This is Alpi the Radak. People running the base of Mikdash and running Am Yisrael at this time were really the Kohanim. They were the advisors of the king. And they were the one in charge. Especially Yoda Cohen and the other Kohanim, they were really running the kingdom. And because of that, everything was good while Yehoyada was alive. And then what happened was after Yehoyada passed away, so the ones that were like the Knesset type of thing, the ministers, the people that were in charge, the governors, all the people like the powerful people, they wanted to regain their power. And they came and they started subjugating themselves to the king and sort of flattering the king. and they tell him he was great, and they want to work with him. And so he listened to them, and he now went after them and away from the Kohanim. So they took the power away from the Kohanim and put it into the hands of the Sarim, and they brought things down back to where it was before. They brought it back down to Avodah Zarah, and that's what it says in Divrei Yam. They started doing the Avodah Zarah again. They brought everything back, and they messed up everything basically. And that's one shot. Another shot, the sages say, and Rav Kashtel explains this interesting way. I'll just on one foot I'll explain this. The sages say that they made him into a god. They started to serve Yoash, the ministers. After Yoyada passed away, they came and started to serve Yoash, and he listened to them. He made himself into like a deity. Like Pharaoh. Okay, that's on the surface. And then it gets even worse. Then what happens is they end up, one of the Kohanim, a Navi, a Kohen, Zechariah gets up and rebukes Yoash. Yoash has him killed. And that's how Zechariah gets killed. That was the death of Zechariah, which led eventually to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. So what happened here? So in the second shot, he says like this. In the first shot of Rav Kashtiel, he says like this, that there was like a shift of leadership, There was a power struggle. First it was Kohanim, and they took it away, and they brought it back down to the Sarim, and they brought things back down to where it was. And they were able to pull Yoash in their direction, And they thought, and when it seemed like, what you have to understand is when Zechariah came and confronted Yoash, he felt he was Mord B'Malchus. It seemed like, okay, I have a right to do what I want, And so that's how he understood the first way, the Redux way. The other way, Al Pi the Chazal, they made him into a deity. Because what does it mean? It means that till now, he says the way it's supposed to work in the Beis Hamikdash in Am Yisrael is the Kohanim are the leaders. Kohanim are supposed to be the leaders. The Kohanim are the teachers of Torah, and they're the main ones who bring do the service in the Beis Hamikdash. And the people they have a very powerful role. The Kohanim, a leadership role. You have to have leadership. The Kohanim have to fill that role. The Kohanim, the Levim have to fill that role of leadership. Obviously, someone's not a Talmid Chacham, so he's less. But basically, the Kohen has in him this lineage and these certain midot, and they're given this leadership role, and that's how things are supposed to work. So it was working like that. For sort of, but what happened is when the Kohanim didn't listen to Yoash in fixing up the Beis Hamikdash, his plan, they didn't work with him, so he sort of took over, and they made that the tzedakah should directly through the king. And what happened is the Kohanim became sidelined, and everything became about the king, and so he sort of had all the power. And then when Yoyada Cohen passed away, so then the other people came and they elevated him even higher. Doesn't mean that they literally made him into a deity. That's just the way Chazal taught. It means that they elevated him way beyond the role he should have been playing, and one individual should have so much power, right? There was no more balance of powers. What's it called again? Like the three-tiered government. Some say that the Jews also have a three-tiered government. You have the king and the Sanhedrin and the Kohen Gadol also. So anyway, that was upset, and the king became too powerful, and as a result is what happened is everything went down. And then at the end, okay, let's go a little further. So, V'yeter divrei Yoash, kol asher asa lo ohev ketuvim al sefer divrei Yamim l'Malchi Yehuda. V'yakumu avadav, v'yikshuru kesher, v'yaku et Yoash. Beit milei hayored silo. You know what happened is, things got even worse. The servants get up, and they make a plot, and they assassinate Yoash. V'yozavad ben Shima V'yehozavad ben Shomer Avadav Hikuhu V'yamot V'yikbru Oto Im Avotav Be'ir David V'yimloch Amatzia B'no Takta. Oh, so I still didn't get. Okay, so we'll pick up tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem. I almost got to the place we're supposed to. Oh, not tomorrow, Sunday. too.